who are the real Cynthia and Antoine Manns?
The Manns are grifters. They're hustlers. They're charlatans. They're con artists. Antoine Manns, he purposely selects his victims based on their disability.
The story continues with Natalia Grace in the most difficult chapter in her life, adulthood. But TLC released a second part of Natalia Grace, the final chapter, and this entire situation just burned me so bad. If you have been following her story from day one, then you already know that Natalia was dealt a bad stack of cards when she ended up at an apartment all by herself at just the tender age of 9 years old, with a disability on top of that, in a bad neighborhood after her first adoptive parents, Michael and Christine Barnett, claimed that she was actually an adult. After a DNA test proved that she is in fact a child at the time when she was living in the apartment alone, it was just a wrap then. But then Cynthia and Antoine Manns came in contact with her. They take her in for over a decade and eventually adopt her. At that time, when the Manns first appeared on the Dr. Phil show with Natalia, viewers thought that they were just angels sent from heaven in her saving grace. Turns out, the Manns had a motive: money. The episode on Investigation Discovery ended with such a mind-blowing cliffhanger. It had us viewers wanting more. We knew something was odd because Cynthia and Antoine called producers saying that Natalia has turned on them and she's acting like they are the enemies. Now that you've caught up, let's talk about last night's episode. So the DePauls, which is Nicole and Vince, they are the family that Natalia is currently living with, and also the same family that actually tried adopting her before the Barnetts. Now that Natalia is with them, Nicole DePaul shares how a lot has changed in her home since Natalia has been there. Natalia still was protecting her adoptive parents, Cynthia and Antoine, as if they are holding something over her head. And we'll get into that later in part 2. But remember when Natalia had to escape her toxic living situation with them? During a church service, the DePauls traveled all the way to Tennessee to pick her up without the Manns knowing because Natalia was so afraid. But Nicole DePaul says that she's confused because when Nicole calls Cynthia or Antoine and asks them for certain pieces of information that will be in Natalia's best interest to have, she says both of them will yell, they will talk over her, and their favorite thing to do is to rebuke them in the name of Jesus. Now, Nicole says that she told Cynthia that she needed medical records so that they can take her to a specialist, or she's at risk of paralyzation, and they called her Satan. Nicole even stated that she was partially paralyzed because of the same condition Natalia had, and Cynthia told her, well, then you must have done something sinful for that to happen to you. You reap what you sow. Like, I was flabbergasted. When I saw all of what Cynthia was saying on the phone, I'm like, what type of Christians are they? I know the type: fraud. On top of that, Nicole says that she asked Cynthia on the phone, where is the money that she earned, Natalia earned, off of some of the appearances that she made? And Cynthia said plain and clear, our finances is none of your business. And Nicole was like going back and forth saying, yes, it is, because we're trying to actually get Natalia some help with surgery and other things that she needs. Cynthia wasn't trying to hear that at all. But I personally wouldn't even be going back and forth with her on that. I would just file a lawsuit because they are really doing things that's fraudulent. They're scammers, they're grifters. And I knew what it was when I first saw them come on the first documentary. They were claiming a percentage of Natalia's income, and they're saying that it goes to the church and the food stamps is for the entire household and all that BS. All of those kids that they have are fostered, and they all have a disability. The Manns take their government checks for their own needs. They even went to spend $100,000 from that they earned on the Dr. Phil show, and they bought a new trailer with it, instead of using it towards Natalia's much needed operations. They even went and had GoFundMes set up, claiming that they wanted to take a trip to Israel and get a new van. Do you think that happened? Absolutely not. But please stay tuned for part 2 because it gets worse.